All right, Andy from Backbone Adventures here in Estes Park, Colorado, ATV and Jeep rental company. Currently we run the Polaris RZR 1000 XP4s and KRX 1000 two-seaters. And we're going to talk about control arms today real quick. For current owners or those looking to buy, something that a lot of people just don't pay attention to. You know, they do their light bars and stereos and all the different toys and accessories you put on, bumpers, whatnot. And a lot of guys will do like control arm guards, little plastic guards, or like aluminum guards on there to protect them from getting hit with rocks and whatnot. And that's all cool. That's good to put on. But one problem that a lot of people tend to forget about, they start putting aftermarket control arms, especially on the Polaris, because they're very weak single shear style control arms. As you can see, this Polaris compared to this Kawasaki, this is much thicker metal, double shear stuff, so it can take a pretty good impact. The problem with that is if you impact a tree or a big rock or something like that, I'm talking like a boulder that you smack into something, something's got to give way. And you want that to be your control arms. You don't want it to be your frame. Now Polaris, although I talk a little bit of trash on Polaris from time to time, and these control arms do suck, they do give way. I mean, we got a fleet of these things and they get wrecked 20 or 30 times in a season each. So we see a lot of tree impacts. And every single time it takes out the control arm, if it gets really deep, gets hit real hard, it'll take out the top control arm, but it never hurts the frame, and that's really, really important. I have seen a lot of guys go with aftermarket control arms that are real big, beefy things, and then it will take out the frame. Personally, I'd rather replace a control arm than I would an entire frame. Now you get into the Kawasaki, and these big control arms are a bit of a problem, because you catch a tree with this, and it will damage the frame. So we put aftermarket Super ATV skid plate on here. It attaches to that bottom part of the frame. It also goes across here, protects your dog ears and in between, and then there's one on the very back too. So we're gonna see how that holds up. We haven't had a tree impact yet, but it's coming. It's gonna happen. We have had a rollover, and the arm took a hit, and at least it wasn't the frame, so that's a good thing. I'll give you an example of what happens when you have control arms that are stronger than the frame. This is one that got rolled. Brand new 2022 Terex 4S, new S models, a little bit wider. These control arms, you can see they look fairly weak, but they're not. They're not as weak as they look, that's for sure, and this upper is just short and stout enough that what happens is the frame takes the hit, and I'll show you that right now. So I gotta make my way over there past all the parts we're taking off this so we can try to repair it. What happened here is this portion of the frame bit in this way, so now we're gonna have to take everything off and porta power it, bend it back out, put a brace in there, get that back to straight, or at least close to it. But it's permanent damage, and Kawasaki doesn't sell frames, so that's a problem. But even Polaris sells frames. It's still $2,500 for a frame, and 2 days worth of work for two guys that know what they're doing. So at any rate, the other damage that happened here was this upper. You can see it's bent up right here, and it dented this frame piece in this way. So we're gonna have, again, once we have everything off, we're gonna have to push that back out, rebrace it, rebuild this whole dog ear. It's a whole hell of a lot of work, just because of some control arms. A fix for the Terex 4 is to add a whole piece of 1/4-inch steel down here along the bottom from side to side, and then back along this wing, and that'll prevent this from happening. But then what happens is this ends up taking a hit. Basically, if this isn't going to bend, the frame's going to bend. And if that part of the frame down there, you strengthen that up so it won't bend, it's going to be this section. It's going to be your weakest link that's going to take the hit. And you want that weakest link to be the cheapest part on the machine, not the most expensive and hardest to work on. So just some advice when it comes to control arms. You look at like the Canam X3 RRs, not the DS turbo, but like the RRs and up, they use really heavy duty control arms, and they do have some serious frame issues. So you catch a tree with a tire, you roll it, smacks this tire real hard on when it flips over, you're going to have some pretty serious frame damage, and that's, your machine's going to be totaled unless you decide to do the work yourself, which is expensive and very time consuming. So if you're going to have big beefy control arms, look at what's going to take the impact is all I'm trying to say in this video. So the Canam X3, I think Super ATV makes a pretty good frame stiffener brace for that. So those are parts that you should absolutely have, unless you're just tooling around on your property. But if you're going to ride aggressive and potentially roll or catch a tree, and you don't know that's going to happen, but if you ride aggressive, most likely something like that might happen at some point. You want to protect your machine, and so maybe you spend as much time on that as you do outfitting it with lights and bumpers and all the stuff that all those toys and accessories. So hopefully it just giving you some advice. Hope that helps. Have a good day.